I welcome everyone on this presentation. I'll focus in my presentation on the legal side, especially what happens in the court or maybe in the real life scenario when somebody is being prosecuted or has already been prosecuted. What may happen, or somebody has not been prosecuted, still how AI may or may not impact his time when in the court. When there's a new technology, we are always scared, but technology always have a positive dimension. That's why we see that we have nuclear weapon, we don't use it, but we are trying to use our technology to save life when there's COVID-19 or something like that. Everybody's coming together and helping each other. So technology itself has a positive dimension, and that is naturally inbuilt. So from that point of view, we just need to know how we deal with this growing technology. We just don't need to be scared, but we need to be scared about the misuse of it. When you are thinking about that somebody being prosecuted or in the court, there's a question of right to fair trial and due process. In the court, you have a right to fair trial. What we mean by this, that if somebody is found guilty, how the judge will determine the length of the imprisonment. So there are some ways the way we lawyers work. But then when we're thinking about that data will be captured automatically or the machine will take the responsibility, that means there'll be some very complex and high level of algorithm. We then call it the artificial intelligence. That means law will always be there in the machine, and you will insert the fact, and the machine will help you to determine the decision. So it's not the human being, the judges, they're determining. Rather, it's already in trial that the machine is determining, the artificial intelligence is determining the length of the prison sentence. And then there's another problem. When the machine is determining the length of the prison, then some of the human factors might be lost. And that may not be considered from the present standpoint of view as really fair trial, because machine is not thinking that way. Another thing is the way artificial intelligence work is highly predictive. Of course, it is still growing, but predictive. How about the predictive policing? So based on your previous behavior or records, there could be arrest and detention of people because the machine has predicted, artificial intelligence has predicted that this person may commit something in the future. So that is, even there could be policing, there could be arrest and detention based on the report by the artificial intelligence, although somebody has not done anything. And there's a 2022 study in Malaysia on recidivism. And it is about, it's not a very extensive study. The sample size is only 16. So the researcher did a wonderful job. They interviewed and monitored the life of 16 former prisoners. How many of them going back to their old life, the life of the crime again? And they found that, well, those who got family support after their first prison term and a positive attitude, for example, society gave them work and they could feed their family and the family accepted them, they did not go back to their old life. But those who were without a family and did not get a positive support from the society, for example, they were denied any entry to the job market or something, they went back to the criminal life again, and they went back to the prison again. So there is a question about what will the artificial intelligence will do if there is a prediction that this person has done this and this is the record, and in future he's going to do the same thing. If this report is available publicly, then probably their employability will be hard, definitely, because it's a predictive technology. So we say that use of artificial intelligence is creating a risk here because this is the problem that's predictive, and the judgment that is coming, the decision that is coming, and that's affecting the people that may or may not be true in future. So this is hitting the core principle of fair trial from that perspective. Another thing is, can we think about, if we think about the decision of a judge, the judges had given a decision, this person is sentenced to this prison term or fine because he has done this and this. There's a reason given. In every judgment, if you just read the judgment, the decision is backed by reasoning. We call it legal reasoning from the perspective that we apply the law in a certain fact and come to a decision. In an artificial intelligence environment, when a decision is coming based on the prediction of artificial intelligence, where will we find the reasoning? How many of us are really able to read the judgment, read all those algorithms, and understand how the machine took the decision? But if a judge has written a decision in my language, I can read and I understand, I can analyze. But how many of us have the same ability to understand the language of the machine, how the machine took the decision, how we'll find which part of the reasoning is the present there? That's a challenge that will definitely question the fair trial procedure in the court. Another thing that we have, are we really thinking about replacing the judges with the machine? It's not really possible yet. It's not really possible yet. But the question is, if we in future, if we there's a small causes courts, they already have this, but in the real big court where trials are going on, people are being sentenced or fined, or even sometimes executed. We're not still there yet, but the way technology is going ahead, maybe one day, judges will be replaced, at least to some extent, by the artificial intelligence. But the question is, if that happens, then what's happening? Judges are somehow putting some kind of facts, and there's a predetermined rule given by the law, and the decision will come out. Lawyers will also do the same thing. They will just insert the facts in the machine-readable format, and the decision will come out. Will it mean that the judges and the lawyers will stop learning, stop debating, stop being human? This is a problem. Maybe the judges and the lawyers, they will become too dependent, reliant on the AI system, and that will question in future the quality of the judgment, because judges are not learning anymore. The lawyers are not learning anymore. Another thing about human rights in the courtroom that can be about related to artificial intelligence, that can be the right of an effective remedy. So you have the right to remedy, right? If I hurt you, I breached a contract. So law will ask me to give you compensation. What if you are not you are a machine? How would I take this action, legal action against a machine? That means if the crime, the offense, the felony is committed by a machine, what will happen? We don't know. In that case, will I be able to take the same legal action? We are not talking about the time when the machine is being operated by somebody. If the artificial intelligence is fully independent, for example, the machine is taking its own decision. Will I take action against the machine or against the creator? But then again, the technology has reached a situation when it's not the creator anymore. The machine itself is learning itself. So it is growing itself. That will create a situation. Will that diminish my right to seek remedy? That, okay, it's a machine, so there's no point of suing him because he has no property to give you. And there's no point of putting a machine in the prison. That's one thing. Another thing is that the opacity of the decision the machine is taking. Even today, general people that don't understand the legal jargon, they need to go to a lawyer for even small things. If in future the artificial intelligence is replacing the judges or the lawyers, or how the rules are being mentioned in machine-readable format, and how the rules are being interpreted and then used, it will be closely impossible for many people, in fact, non-technical people, to interpret how the decision was taken. And if I do not know your argument, how will I prepare my argument? Will we start relying on the technology experts more than the legal experts? That will become a question, because the machine-readable words, machine-readable arguments, this is not clear to us. And if it is not clear to us, if your argument is not clear to us, all I can see that your decision is affecting me, but since I don't know how you took the decision, so I cannot defend myself. In sometimes when I cannot ask, I can seek for effective remedy. There is a proposal that if the artificial intelligence can be taken to the level where the machine can explain how and why it took a decision, probably only then it can be acceptable. There is a highly intelligent level. We don't know if it is still there or in near future is coming. Another question is, even during the COVID-19, there was a widespread allegation about in many countries, I can give an example of one country, Bangladesh, that government was manipulating data. So when they say that, well, the infection rate is very high and there's a lockdown because the opposition was taking the street for protest or something for some other purposes, because the leader of the opposition was in prison. And then suddenly there was this yearly Muslim festival, Eid al-Adha. Then the government said, no, now the infection rate is very low, because then there was a pressure that people must go outside, they must enjoy their social life, no matter where the infection rate is going. So these are some criticism that came, that government was manipulating the data to make the people do, okay, you do whatever you want, but it's in my control, under my control, because when I think I'll show that the infection rate is very high and I'll make sure that you are at home. So in case of artificial intelligence, when we say that data will be inserted in the machine will learn something, who is collecting the data? And how the data is being collected? From whom? How we know that the machine that was trained by some people, it is free from their bias about religion, about race? I can give a very simple example. Even a few years ago, when I saw a kid was playing a video game, and it's like that some terrorist has taken some people hostage, and he is going to rescue them. When the terrorist came inside and shot, and before the terrorist died, he's saying, Allahu Akbar. So you see, even the video game in the Western world were teaching students that, well, young kids, that, well, probably the bad people have certain kind of specific faith or something. So how will you know who is training the artificial intelligence, and if it is neutral or not? How the data is being collected, from whom? These are the questions. And if we cannot guarantee neutrality, then probably this will affect our rights in future. Because in the court, whoever is saying what is open. The arguments are open. All documents are accessible to everybody. Anybody can see, anybody can, even in the public, and see how the judge accepted or did not accept certain evidence, for what ground, and then how she or he reached to a conclusion. And then if there's a question, we can say, well, there's a question. How will we solve this problem? How will we read the machine readable data? That will create a problem. Now it's about the way forward. What we have, Artificial Intelligence Act in the European Union is still proposed. We do not have this act yet, but a lot of discussion is going on. It's a very good start, but still the critics are saying that how you understand the risk-based approach, how we understand the risk is very subjective. That can impact if it will have any wider acceptance in the society or not. So do we have any solution to this problem? There is a proposal. Can we create a right-based approach? That is legal protection by design. What they mean by legal protection by design is that when you make the machine, when you write the software, train the artificially intelligent machine, then from the beginning, we design the whole system in a way so that the rule of law is reflected everywhere. That means the data collection, that will follow the rule of law. Data processing will follow the rule of law. So if we can design the machine in a way that legal rules are being followed in every aspects. For example, when you are collecting the evidence, what kind of evidence you can say yes and no? Everything will be followed by law. That means you're not making a machine by the experts or engineers only. You're also taking help from the lawyers and the judges to know that the machine works in a way a man would work or a woman would work. So designing it in a way so that it is logical and more legal. So you're ensuring the machine itself follows certain rules, just the way a lawyer or a judge would. Legal protection by design, this is a proposed idea. And so far, this is the best possible solution to this problem, that you just do not design a system. You design the system keeping in mind the rules that apply, so that from the beginning, you can check certain corrupt things so that it doesn't enter into the system. So the system can be neutral as much as possible. All I wanted to say is that in the human rights dimension, we have, especially in the court, we have the right to fair trial. And another thing, we have the right to an effective remedy. Both can be challenged because we general people do not understand how AI works. And if I do not understand properly, probably I cannot figure out how my rights are being affected. And then if I cannot figure this out, then I cannot figure it out, how will I defend myself? There's an old debate that, well, how much and to what extent should we copy and paste or adopt the Western idea of human rights? Because the principle itself is global, there's no doubt, but the content is always local, because the way they can criticize the Queen of England, we do not criticize the king or queen of our country in this region. So the content is always different, so that's we understand. Then whole lot of other things are also there. Our capacity and the way we want to look at the business to grow. And of course, openness is something that will benefit everyone. But before any kind of openness, we also need to see if we have enough technological and knowledge base to support this kind of openness. I give one example that there's this country in Southeast Asia, Bangladesh. They have now 75%. They said that there's a rapid growth of internet use, 75% growth. That is 75% of the total population of 168 million. They are now under the coverage of internet. And then the government came up with this e-commerce policy in 2018. They said that since everybody can use internet, so we want to support the e-commerce platform. The question is, they did not have the technological plus legal basis of having this right now. The way we have, say, in Malaysia, they have Lazada, Shopee, and other places. So what happened during the COVID-19, there was a huge scam of $48 million in 4 months. So people are giving money, but they were not getting anything in return. So you see the amount, it's $48 million in 4 months' time. And these were the scamming, and people lost their money, and now they are taking the street. Government saying that, well, we're trying to do everything possible. So I was doing this small research, and I found that, well, the simple thing that you need in this kind of online environment, say, when you're buying something, there should be escrow account. So until or unless you say you have received the item, no money will be released. It's a simple thing, but it is not mandatory there. So people are paying in advance, and there was non-delivery. And when the amount is about 48 million US dollar altogether, the money is lost, being laundered out of the country. Then the government found that, well, we do not have the technological means to find out how the money was lost, number one. And we do not have any law that will ask people to make sure that, well, you use the escrow service. Fund will not be released until or unless the receiver, the buyer, is saying that I have received the item in good condition. So you see, we have technology, so we allowed so many things, but we did not have the understanding of the technology, and we did not have the legal basis to support in case there is a problem. So our preparedness is important first. We want to prepare our citizen, and only then we adopt. That is my analysis, my understanding. Otherwise, it can be premature. But at the same time, I also believe that if we do not start, then we do not learn. So we need to keep a balance between, we introduce the technology, at the same time we also educate ourselves. Because if we do not impose it on us, we don't want to learn. That is also a reality. So I think we need to find out a balance between these two. Thank you. This is alarming for, in fact, all of us, if there's a widespread use. But at the same time, we cannot, this is not our position anywhere in the world that we will deny technology. Technology must be there, and it will come, it will grow, and it will have its initial problems. But the question is the transition. Should we rapidly just allow somebody for possessing 0.00 gram, 1 gram of, methamphetamine, and for sentencing 12 months of imprisonment? Looks harsh, but maybe a human judge would do the same thing. But since it's the machine, so we're questioning. The question is, if the issues we just discussed, that there's no opaqueness about the algorithm, we do not know what kind of data was collected and how the machine was created and who wrote the algorithm for giving this judgment. So this opaqueness, something we do not know, we cannot enter into the system, cannot see. But when a judge is passing the judgment in the High Court, in the Supreme Court of Thailand, or maybe here in Malaysia, I can go, I can read it, and I can get help from some lawyers. There are many lawyers help me understand, or I can even read myself and understand why judge accepted some of my evidences and rejected others, and then come to a conclusion. And it's the open court. The concept is open court, the fair trial. You can challenge anything, anytime, several times. But in case of the algorithm, when the algorithm is accepting the fact and analyzing the fact and giving a decision, how would I know? I cannot read the algorithm. I'm not that literate. I'm talking to the most of the people. That creates a problem. Now, it is the responsibility on the state part, on the government, to create this confidence on the people that, well, the system is designed in a way that is intelligent enough, and you are going to receive fair trial. So don't be scared. The responsibility of the government, because now what we do today, we in many countries question the capability of the judge himself or herself, because we say that person was appointed by that government. We can ask the same question about, so it's not that blame that the system that is delivering the justice is not neutral. It's not a new thing. It's not about, there's a monopoly for the machine only. It's an old thing there. So it is about creating the confidence, and government will have to take this responsibility. The way they ask us to rely on the existing court system, the same way that they will have to do the same thing. Maybe here they will have more opportunity if they can engage everybody in the society and social consultation and a process so that people understand how it works. Because the thing is working here for a long period of time. So now, other day they called me. I think I had to go to the police station for checking this fine for my car, for speeding car. So I found that they said that, well, there are 5 speeding offenses I have committed, so I have to pay this amount of money. I said, I bought the car, it's maybe from the previous owner, because it's from 2008, then 2010, I was not even here. I came 8 years later here. They said, yeah, this is the system. That person didn't pay all this thing. That's one way of looking at this. And in 2005, when I was doing my studies in Stockholm, they said that, so they have the speed camera on hidden inside the bush, but can still read. So you're speeding right at the moment when you just crossed the limit, exceeded the limit, you can just hear this small voice or maybe a ting sound on your mobile phone. So The camera has read your number plate, and it has matched with the road transportation system with the owner. And that system has connected with search and found the bank account where you have bank account and have deducted the money. They have transferred this amount information to your carrier, mobile carrier, and they have processed this, short message, SMS to your phone, and everything happened in less than half second. So you have committed a traffic offense and you have already penalized. So this is a machine that is working. It's not the traffic police or somebody's checking your things. So you're doing something that's happening right away. This thing may be okay, but people are not still ready to get sentenced, go to prison by a machine. And it is the responsibility of the government to create this confidence. That's the only way it works, because they are the one they will run it in our current society. In some cases, this could be possible that the machine already has the rule. If this and then this. So then if this is being inserted by the judge, she has done this or he has done this. And based on the previous principle already installed there, machine is taking a decision. And if the machine is more intelligent, then the machine can say, okay, murder, so imprisonment for 20 years. But then here's the fact, the murderer, the accused, is a pregnant woman. So we want to put her for 10 years. Or murder, so is capital punishment. But then if the machine can learn that, well, no, it's a pregnant woman. Killing this woman will also mean killing an innocent child. Or the accused is only 25 years old and only earning member in the family. Killing this person is like crippling the entire family. He's only earning member family, plus he's only 25 years old. Maybe he can have a second chance to learn from his mistake. So instead of capital punishment, maybe we can give him, say, life imprisonment and then that will be reduced into 15 or 10 years or 12 years if there's a good behavior. So the human thinking about the entire society, the impact of a punishment on the family and the person. Question is when we will be able to train our machine to think this way. That's the question. Until we have that, then there will always be a question if we should accept the machine's decision or not, because these are the human thinking that will always prevent us from accepting the machine the way it is today. So we have a long way to go, but definitely it's a good start. And this will solve many of the problems in future, because this is also not nice that you need to literally sell your land and all the savings of your life because you need to go to the court for next 3 years again and again. And it's a very lengthy and costly process. If anybody benefits from the process, are the lawyers, not the state, not you, none of the parties. Of course, because you cannot impose someone that you have to when there is no general acceptance of something. There's a general acceptance of the current court system that this is the court and this is how it works and it's there for generations. But when you are introducing something new, if it didn't have the acceptability of the people, if it's not accepted by the people will not accept it and people will not follow the rules and regulations. Because you cannot just impose something on the people. Then their question will be all the principles of current data collection, so data protection. That will also be in question. That, well, how much of those principles will apply in case of an accused person taken to the court and his data is being processed? Because now the question will be that it's a predictive, technology that will predict what may happen in future. That is all about algorithm and AI. Even an innocent person can be sentenced based on some arguments with friend and something. Maybe the algorithm will say that, well, he did this in the past, and in future we can predict that this will go in this direction. So predictive technology. We need to understand that. So somebody has not done anything yet. Still, he can be accused of something if this technology works this way. So maybe in the initial stage, we will need consent that, okay, we want to do this for you. Even before we give the coronavirus, the shot, we ask people which hand, left or right. So why shouldn't we have the same chance when I'm being sentenced in a certain way, until or unless it has gained acceptability across the society as general norm? Of course, the question of consent will always remain, and a valid question. Data protection and right to privacy, these are global rights, and we all are entitled to this. But as I say, that the content will always vary in different country to country because of the government, of the social system. We are, of course, entitled to these rights. There's no doubt, these are global. But the way the Western country can practice, because of so many factors, so many things, we cannot enjoy the same thing because, say, I'm living in a country under dictatorship, I cannot enjoy. Of course, I'm entitled to these rights. So many things will determine how the data protection thing will go, because one thing is happening that, when we are talking about the personal data protection, then it is related to human rights. In a sense, in all human rights, in a sense that, say, I have the right to be forgotten. Can I tell my bank or university to delete my data when they don't need it anymore? But still they want to retain it. One example I give you, that I have registered for a telephone company and I subscribed, I bought a SIM card, I'm using it. And the question is the data retention. They do not need my data. How many people I called, how many times, what was the duration of the call, and it was an audio call or video call, text message. They don't need this information after the billing period. Because they send me the bill, I paid the money, it's done. But what if the government is asking them to keep this, retain this data for 10 years because they might need it for criminal investigation in future? So here's my right to be forgotten, and then government's need for criminal prosecution investigation. So they may ask the telecom authority, no, you must retain the data for a certain period of time. The question is, who will pay for this retention? Billions of calls are being made every day. And why they would do that? So the question will always be there. Some countries, they agreed with this principle, and they said, okay, no retention is necessary. But in some countries, government are forcing. For example, I give an example of one country. Government are forcing the telecommunication industry to retain the data at their own cost and supply and share with the government whenever they want. So this country is not following, say, the principle of GDPR, the right to be forgotten. People cannot even ask any authority to delete their data when they don't need it. The government saying, no, all data will be stored the way it is. At the same time, the Prime Minister's telephone call is being leaked and then hacked, and the record is available on the YouTube, but government is not taking any action. But the country has the telephone interception law, anti-interception law. But they're applying it for other people, but they're not applying for the Prime Minister's call, the President's call. Maybe the government wanted this call to be leaked. So the choice, they're very selective when they want to apply a law or not. So this has a political dimension, as you understand. Of course, we have the right. The political reality is different. So I think this will affect the enjoyment of right even in the coming days. But one thing is very interesting. I saw the Malaysian data protection law here. It's really remarkable. It's really good. And it's really covering all the aspects. Of course, still a long way to go, how this affects the business, how it affects the people. And this will take a long time, but still they have a data protection law. That is a constitutional guarantee that people will have the ownership of their own data. They can control the data to some extent, especially the 9 principles they have laid down under the GDPR of European Union. Some of them are nicely reflected here. So it's a good start, but of course we know that it's not enough. Maybe in future it will go in some other parts as well, because this is something, it's about, you have a nice telephone, like iPhone 14 or telecommunication network and everything, and you have a good service, but if your friend do not have the same service, how would you communicate with them? You have a phone, but your friend doesn't have. So data protection will mean it will affect the business, software business, and then the industry and the insurance business, all businesses. So how will you do business? If you have a data protection law here that says that Malaysian data will not leave Malaysian border to a country where there's a risk and they do not have the equal protection of law, then how will Malaysia do business with, say, with India or say Bangladesh or say with the Philippines? Because this is the concept of the GDPR in the European Union, that the European Union citizens' personal data will not leave EU border to, and will not go to a country where they do not provide a similar amount, type of protection. There are some exceptions, of course, there are some exceptions, especially after the Shrimp 2 case. It is clear that even this one university student stopped data sharing between Facebook Ireland with United States, and they had to change the law for one lawsuit. That is the problem. If we have law, that is fine, but if our neighbors do not have, then we will not be able to use it, because the data protection is not within the country itself. Data can be shared with the company, or the Malaysian government or some authority can give access to their data to a foreign company, and then it is being shared, and it can leak from another country. Then what is the point of having a protection here? Because it can be leaked from another country. So we need to know if our neighbors are speaking in the same language, they have the same attitude to it. So until or unless we have this kind of agreement, isolated data protection law in one country will not give us not a lot of benefit. The way you are puzzled, I'm equally puzzled with the same questions. But then is the question about informed consent. The reality is there's something called standard contract. When you're browsing a website, you are always accepting certain cookies or standard contract. If you do not accept, you cannot browse the website. So in many commercial banks, you just fill out certain things, your name, address, and telephone number, and your address and other things. And you accept the rate, the interest, and everything, all the terms and conditions. We cannot change it. But we put our signature. There's a reality for millions of people around the world. Say when you are buying a mobile phone, agree with the licensing agreement. When you're buying the SIM card, you do not negotiate, but we always say, click yes, I accept. Nobody reads the 300-page licensing agreement, but still, if this is informed consent, that we are supposed to read and say yes. But in the AI environment, we are saying that the person who is being tried, taken to the court, that person must know the probable impact of this technology. So if he knows everything, that is the question. So informed consent here, we mean that he knows the probable pros and cons of the decision of accepting artificial intelligence. Only then we can say that is an informed consent. In most cases, it's not informed consent. We just say yes and no. So the question is, informed consent will come from a person's ability to understand. Because in the law, as you say, if somebody is not able to understand the consequence of putting a signature on a contract, we say he's a minor, he's an insane person, he's a bankrupt, or so he does not know the probable consequence of the contract, then he cannot give the consent and cannot be a party of that contract. In this situation, we're going to say that informed consent it would mean that the person know the probable consequences, probable impediment, cost, and his inability to challenge the decision in certain way, his inability to access the decision and read and understand in certain way without the help of some technician. He knows all these things, and then he gave the consent. This would mean informed consent. About the accountability, yes, now I tell my students that, well, we're in the 4th year of your study, master's. Do not give me the description of anything. I want the answer with how and why. It's not what. So that is the way I want to make sure that the analysis is coming, not description. That's the simplest way I tell them. So the simplest way, this is what now they're proposing for the machine. If the machine can only give certain result, but without the answering the how and why, then it is not an intelligent machine. So in future, if an artificially intelligent machine can deliver certain decision, not only the decision, but also will answer how and why, how the machine took the decision and why, probably that will be more acceptable. So we're talking about that artificial intelligence in the future, but it's not possible yet. But of course, the development is there. People are working, engineers are working. Maybe one day it will be possible. But the impediments will always remain. Who is feeding the data and what kind of data? Because it's just like a child. No matter whether he was born in Malaysia, if he's raised in Saudi Arabia, he will speak Arabic. Depends on who is feeding the data, who is informing, who's training. So how would we free ourselves from the biasness of this teaching and the training? That will be a crucial question in future. Who will train them? Because a judge is a social product, but a machine is being fed by 2, 3, or 5, or 4 trainer. So there will be question of biasness.